If your ASKO dishwasher is showing F12, don't panic, and don't assume the whole machine is broken just because one code popped up on the screen. On ASKO dishwashers, F12 usually means a water inlet fault. In simple words, the dishwasher is not getting enough water, or it is not getting water the way it expects. The machine starts the cycle, waits for water to come in, and then realizes something is wrong. That is when you get the F12 error. Now the good news is that this is often one of the more straightforward ASKO errors to check, because the first things to look at are simple. You're not starting with hidden electronics or strange settings. You're starting with the water supply. The first thing to check is the water tap feeding the dishwasher. Make sure it is fully open, not halfway open, not I think it's open enough, fully open. ASKO lists that as one of the first checks for this fault because if the machine is not getting enough incoming water, it can trigger F12 almost immediately. On newer ASKO manuals, the recommended water pressure range is about 4.2 to 140 pounds per square inch. So if the supply is extremely weak, that can also cause trouble. After that, look at the inlet hose. This is the hose that brings water into the dishwasher. If that hose is bent, pinched behind the machine, twisted, or crushed against the wall, the water flow can drop enough to trigger the error. This is one of those boring little problems that can create a big headache. The dishwasher is basically saying, I asked for water, and what I got was not enough. And then we get to one of the most common causes, the outer filter on the inlet hose. ASKO manuals specifically mention that the external filter can become blocked by small particles from the water supply. That little filter is there for a good reason, but when it gets clogged, it can reduce the flow into the machine and trigger F12. The dishwasher itself may be perfectly fine, but if that filter is blocked, the machine still cannot fill the way it should. So here is the safe way to check and clean it. First, turn the dishwasher off and unplug it, then turn off the water tap. Once the water is off, unscrew the inlet hose carefully. Inside that connection, there is an outer filter. Remove it gently and clean it. Rinse off any dirt, grit, or debris. Then put the filter back. Make sure the gasket is sitting properly and reconnect the hose securely. After that, turn the water back on, check that nothing is leaking, plug the machine back in, and try the dishwasher again. Those are the same basic steps ASKO describes in its care and use manuals. Now, on some older ASKO models, there is one more thing worth checking, a pressure limiting valve. Not every setup has one, but some manuals mention that if there is a pressure limiting valve on the inlet hose, it can sometimes restrict the water flow enough to cause the inlet error. So if your dishwasher keeps throwing F12 and you know your installation includes that kind of valve, it is worth having that checked too. At this point, a lot of people ask, do I need to reset the dishwasher after cleaning the filter? Usually, yes. ASKO's FAQ guidance says that after you take the corrective action for an error, you should turn the machine off and then on again. On some models, you can also press any button to clear the error message. So once you have checked the water tap, looked at the hose, and cleaned the inlet filter, restart the dishwasher and see if the code is gone. If the machine starts filling normally and the error disappears, great. That means the problem was likely just weak supply, a blocked filter, or restricted flow into the machine. But if F12 comes right back, do not keep restarting it over and over like that is somehow going to improve the water pressure. At that point, the machine is telling you there is still a real inlet problem. Either the water is still not reaching the dishwasher correctly, or a part related to inlet control may need service. And ASKO's official guidance is pretty clear here. If the basic checks do not solve the issue, contact service. There is also a simple way to think about this error. F12 is not really a mystery code. It is the dishwasher complaining that water is not coming in the way it should. So instead of treating it like some strange digital disaster, work through it in order. First, water tap. Second, hose. Third, inlet filter. Fourth, pressure or pressure limiting valve if your setup has one. Then restart the dishwasher and test it again. That order matters because it keeps you from wasting time. A lot of appliance problems feel complicated until you walk through them step by step, and with F12, the smartest path is the obvious one: follow the water. One more thing that helps: after reconnecting the hose and turning the water back on, take a second to make sure the connection is watertight. If the hose is not seated properly, you can create a new problem while trying to solve the old one. So tighten everything properly, restore power, and then test the machine calmly instead of rushing. So the short version is this: if your ASKO dishwasher shows F12, it means a water inlet fault. Start by making sure the water tap is fully open. Check that the inlet hose is not kinked or crushed. Clean the outer filter on the inlet hose. If your installation has a pressure limiting valve, make sure that is not restricting the flow too much. Then restart the dishwasher and test it again. If the code stays, it is time for service because the machine is still not getting the water supply it expects. And honestly, that is what makes F121 of the more manageable dishwasher errors. It sounds serious, but the first checks are simple, practical, and based on the water coming in. You are not guessing. You are following the exact path ASKO tells you to start with. And sometimes the whole problem comes down to something as small as a clogged little inlet filter doing a very big job.